But if you don't know that, when this opportunity came up, I was just like, so we're gonna line up behind people for our group photo. Right here for group photo. Little rearranging here. And then it'll probably take I'm on a couple different phones, like Diana. Don, you need to be in the photo. Diane's the big
Watch this.
I can be down there too. No, wait, Nikki. Do you want me to do it? Wait, no, wait.
You know, if everything just squish a little bit, I can get a little closer.
We all like each other. We don't.
So great, okay, for your best smile, and then we'll go here.
Let's do one of them. Wait, is this more? Oh, wait. Just in case my phone. And then we're gonna get a comment. Yeah, you want me to break up? And you guys can tell me when you're ready. I'm gonna pull this back. Oh, yeah. Okay, now we're gonna take a picture of all the artwork. Everyone's staring at here. Oh, yeah. Oh, there we go. Let's follow our plan. And so I suppose it's
Just give them a little space.
oh my God. Wow. We have the coolest art exhibition of any city. Get that on YouTube.
Well, depending on how many of you are Apple, like, it's this one. You know,
Do you have any video? Okay. Okay, it works. Okay. All right, so here's a question for you. When you have an experience, and whether this is a connection to an artwork or strong feelings about an object or a person, what's an important contributor to that experience for you? Sure. So when you have an experience, right? Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. I put it up here too, okay? But like, what's an important contributor to that experience? Go for it. Yeah. Emotions you feel? Okay. Big part. One personal, mental, emotional. That, yes, yep. Senses, yeah. When I smell, when I think, when I hear. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly, yeah. So mine is exactly that. So for me, my past lived experience is how I'm translating that experience, right? People that you've connected with, where you've been, ideas you've been exposed to, all contribute. Yeah, and the smells and your senses, but these are like the lens of like what you know, right? And this is like how you base your understanding. Sorry, I haven't memorized anything. So let me introduce myself a little bit. My name is Laura. I'm an idiosyncratic artist that works mainly in oils. I draw a lot from personal experiences. So my topics are very sensitive to me. I'm largely self-taught until I completed my master's in my 30s in New York. I've exhibited in Chicago, New York, France, St. Bart's, and after a gap, now Tacoma. I've collaborated in a number of public pieces. Some of it I'm going to talk about later. My work floats around this idea of the exceptions to an idea, or like those spills outside of categories, because sometimes I feel like these are like nuanced clues that's saying that our structured understanding can also limit us. Let me see where I'm at with this. Yeah, so this has been present in my work under themes of sexuality, where that line of where it's a tool of power versus a facade of insecurity. It's been present when I'm dealing with my ethnicity. So growing up in a Black and Korean household and the ideas of authenticity. It's also been present in my work with family and motherhood and like all of that kind of complexity. Sometimes I think me being an artist that draws such like personal references into my work, sometimes it can be hard for that read or entering that work or finding the full intention of what I meant. But again, I don't believe you can pass on experiences, like just what we're talking about, like, you know, you're translating your own personal like experience into it, right? So I think there's success when I can plant like some sort of spirit or connection, lay some sort of connection with our shared understanding. And that's what I aim for. So perception. In my 20s, I participated at an art residency in New York. And I poured all of my efforts into this work that was about romantic relationships and the pursuit of love. I was in my 20s, right? And it depicted a woman on a house of cards of her suitors. Okay? And I had paired it with, you don't have it here, but I had paired it with a montage of stamps with like interviews of people I've met and like their experiences with love and navigating that in their lives. So when the residing art critic kind of stepped into my space, he immediately zeroed in that I depicted Black men on the playing cards instead of traditionally European. And he thought the work was about race. And he was a white male that stepped into my, to the space. Now, if you recall, I said I'm an idiosyncratic artist. So I knew every single person that I painted in here. And this was a situation that I personally knew about, that I'm depicting here. So granted, he did not know that. And I also didn't recognize that my viewer would be so used to like, seeing themselves represented, that he stopped reading my work there. It's not the first time that I've seen like how wide our viewpoints or how we come at like different objects in different ways, or even like cultural competency too is a part of it. Growing up as an Army brat, so we moved around every 3 years, right? And it was during a time where like it was okay to play that guessing game at your ethnicity, right? And I never got offended at it. I felt like it was kind of like my own social experiment. And what I found was that there was a trend that the more exposed a person was, the more correctly that they guessed my ethnicity, right? So it depended less on what I wore that day, or, you know, what I looked like that day, and more on what they were exposed to. And the more they were exposed to different groups, the more correct they were. Obviously, I had a number of guesses in line with like current stereotypes. So what my skin tone was that day, what my hairstyle was that day, you know, what outfit was. So I value exposure a lot. Because it often challenged my own viewpoint, so that there was like this healthy doubt on, do I know enough or do I need to ask more questions about it? Just so, you know, like you can see how wrong things can be, right? And how do you get there? So, okay, here's another question for you guys. How do you recognize when your own worldview is being challenged? And what do you do? What do you like start out with? Baseline. Let's give you a minute. Oh, your challenge is triggered. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Feel it. You're irritated, you're upset, you don't like it, you want to flee from it. Yeah. Or you want to challenge it, try to get it. Fight, flight, yeah. I heard there's a new one called fawning, right? Fawning, like, yeah, they have their fight, flee, freeze, or fawn. So fawn now is like you're kind of like engaging and trying to entertain this thing that is triggering you. Yeah. Yeah. Really pushing to look at something. I was triggered at first, but then I keep on my best friends. We love each other. I didn't fight or flight or fawn. I just wanted to again. I knew the deep meant well. Yes. We were able to have a dialogue. It was really productive. Yeah, you did. You asked more questions. That's impressive. Yeah. Was it because he was your friend that made you more open to it?
So,
Okay.
I mean, if you want to have like sensitivity, but I would still go to that place of wanting that. I would without pushback.
My parents owned a motel, and it was the closest one to Fort Lewis. And we had like 30 different rooms or whatever. But we enjoyed the people that came in there from the service. And there were, black people, white people, you name it, there were, whatever. And we just liked to talk to the people, and they told us, about themselves, and maybe had questions about, what Lakewood was like or Tacoma was like. But it was nice just hearing them speak and introducing us to their family, which made it really nice.
That kind of opened your worldview.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you get to recommend, like, I think there's a number of ways to recommend. Like, you might not be the audience for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, I think out of yourself for who is the audience.
Right. Yep. Being conscious where it matches. So, when we talk about that lens, like, I really don't take my worldview for granted. I know it's present on everything that, I see or I hear. And I know when something bothers me is when I'm like being challenged, right? And you're just like, ugh, I can't place it, but this is really bothering me right now, right? But I do know, like, we all have values. We have those undertones of our family narratives, our culture, all the stories we tell ourselves, right? So when that happens, I often go back, and it depends on the situation, because you're right, like, different situations are going to warrant different things. But I go back to this story about the platypus. You've heard about it? Okay. So, like, the origins of the platypus is, like, after the scientists have kind of, put these divisions on what animals are supposed to be, right? You're like a reptile, you're an amphibian, fish, mammal, right? They found the platypus. It was about, the 18th century, and they thought it was a hoax, right? And the platypus is kind of weird because it has characteristics of both reptiles and mammals. And so what they did was they just made a new category, and they said egg-laying mammal, and they put it over there. Right? And what I often wonder about that was, does the discovery have caused a reorganization of that category instead of just adding a new one, right? Should the original structure have been questioned instead of just saying, okay, we got this, we're going to put it over here so it fits? I think that sometimes, like, going back to my worldview, when I'm challenged, sometimes I have to pause and say, do I need a reorganization of what I understood? And how do I expand rather than just adding some new category that's going to be like, hey, my worldview is perfect. Here, here is how you fit in, right? Let me see. So I think, yeah. So Bell Hooks has this great quote where she says, we frequently don't enlarge our sense of things. We actually come up with new ways to defend. And that's something, like, I always come back to when challenged. Again, it's situations, right? Like, I'm at the DMV, someone's telling me to go, like, in back the line. That's a totally different situation, right? But if I'm trying to, like, be in the spirit of collaboration, then I take a pause with it. Okay, here we go. Collaboration, yeah. Okay, so because I want that spirit of the work to kind of translate and go throughout, I feel like I'm collaborating all the time. I'm collaborating with my space, I'm collaborating with the subject matter, I'm collaborating with my materials, Even when I paint portraits, it carries both parts of the person that I'm painting as well as like my fingerprint of my lens. And I'm conscious of that. I really find like there's a beauty in a full experience, not like, you know, in all of its nuances. Not sure if you can translate it all the way. And I keep this in mind when I participate in a project. Even as like, and I'm usually the artist in the project, right? So even as the artist in the project, I try to think about the intention of the collaboration, how I can contribute and not dampen that spirit. And then my role, right? Like, am I the visionary and am I like a creative contributor, or am I just like this enabler, right? Just kind of helping other voices be heard. So, let's see, I want to bring you to one of these, this project that I had worked on, and it was a mural project I was pulled into at the last minute. It was in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and the intention was that they chose this kid's collage, and it was going to be painted on the side of a Starbucks to by the community. So like people from the community was going to come, they were all going to paint. There was a huge like time push, right? So I think they had some sort of unveiling with cameras, had to meet, which meant like, you know, I was up throughout the night trying to outline this on the side of the wall, right? And prep the wall for the painting. What happened was like, no kids showed up. And even the adults that showed up were like friends of the administrator. I don't think they were really connected to the community at all. So some things I learned there was about not rushing, and if the intention was the community, that there needed to be more like groundwork to make that connection. The only photo I have is kind of embarrassing, just because it got tagged up so quickly. And, but you know, you could argue that it wasn't part of the community. So like, yeah, somebody obviously, yeah, they're not, no one's gonna pause when they look at this, right? Yeah, and the trash bag doesn't help you either, does it, right? So, so another project I want to say that it was nice to learn from was a opera set design in Newark, New Jersey. And there, some of the writer producers, they gave me the whole vision. I wanted to do the vision for it was really a passive collaboration with the writer, producer, stage master, and the lighting designer. The director was actually Golden Lake. Sculpture, section, stop motion, animation. But me and the director, we had a conversation because she was not happy that the set was designed before. And so there was a active collaboration about, I understood her viewpoint. I am putting all the seriously happening around the set, right? I have to be in a certain position. And so we had to make some concessions there about my viewpoint. Luckily, she had a lot of experience, so it was very important to my viewpoint of like what we would try to interpret with the as. And so it was kind of like, oh, nice again. Yeah, a lot of late nights, but it was like shooting something. So like, here's one of my favorite projects. Again, it was an inside mural at a Filipino food. It was based on the Filipino story of creation, where man and woman throughout the And, I realized really early that my role was different, and I was not a contributor, like a creative contributor, right? I was just here to open up space and, give others space as they came and painted and thought about the design. So a lot of kids showed up here, a lot of adults showed up. I painted a lot less.
Trying to figure out how to add sound, sorry. I don't know how to.
And it was just really like kind of guiding, right? So, the students feel like they were creative, but they were, and just kind of structure around it. And so there, I want to say that was like one of the first places I learned to be conscious of like the space I can create. When you're in a room, how much space am I taking or not? How much space do I allow others? Even if you're like just getting and you're calling someone, right? Like how to bring someone out is like not there, you know, or maybe not ready. So being conscious of my worldview, how I contribute, how it doesn't contribute, right? And my role that I play. What is important? So I guess that question to you. Maybe conscious. I think it can be both, right? Like sometimes I think depending on the situation or how you're feeling, sometimes you don't take much space at all, right? I mean, it takes a lot of space. And how do you bring that to others, right? Like how do you see that space? But this is also to bring it to the context with the art. Sure. Yeah. With art. Yeah. Yeah. Go for it. Well, I just, you know, I mean, this. Well, I'm turning it open, but you know, if that's what you're. When you say the delivery, is it like how open making or how resuscitating? Like you don't want to push.
I think you become conscious of the space that you and other people see when you go home. And then, if you host, you, diplomatic pull out the space. I mean, I think this is very applicable to, to, providing context that, how we negotiate in our.
So how do you get treated? I think I connected to like when you're saying how it's delivered, maybe sometimes for me, it's like creating that space for the listen. But sometimes I'm not, I can, not just, I know that I'm not ready to listen, right? But creating that space that like when I walk in here, I'm ready to listen. I'm gonna say a lot of mine is like, I don't know if it's just because, my background, having to be in the space all the time, even after growing up within the Army, there's a lot of Chicago, New York, France, right? So, when I say there's times that I know that I'm intending to do, right? Or, it's always a choice at that point. You could be choosing to continue this way or continue that relationship, or maybe not, sometimes I'm gonna say like, perfect, I don't think that's the right? So. But that is it. Yeah. Thank you for participating. Any questions?
Well, I think some of the questions that came up was how to work with politically sensitive or topics that are sensitive in art. So like that was one of the questions. So we probably want to ask more about the questions that we were wondering in art. This is a really good thing to hear from the artists. You guys have any questions about, art collaboration process? Obviously, we're again in the office. We're all like it's a great time to talk about home and that's how. Okay, I would like to say one thing. It's content that you pick up. When I got my master's in development, they talked about this. At every conversation or around every table, there's a target population and engagement, and the target is like your ethnicity, your wealth, your education, your white, male, upper income, then you're the target, right? And then it kind of trickles down. And so being aware if you're a target, then I think you're going to want to take up less space because you're already taking up space versus the agent. I don't know where that falls in, but like you said, having that group.
Don't forget, it's that I think it's just more so that I can see like some of those viewpoints, just like how the art critic walked in. Oh, you're trying to tell me about race, right? And how it was, right? And how that like viewpoint of something's missing or something can change. Or in my viewpoint, it was just this was the romantic situation, and that was the woman, and we were the right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, get onto your question about how do we contact messages, I think we have to come to the door with saying question of our worldview, our assumptions, our knowledge, and if we are triggered by something, we pause and we are being presented as why we are on, reaction. And that gives us the space to have the conversation about what we're doing.
I want to take another look at your the target, because in growing up, I saw myself on the flip side of that. Right? So it's interesting to hear that perspective of someone who is majority. Marginalized, or underserved, if you want to call them, or is it the move around a lot, those transient, the community that moves around for 3 years and then they go on for a while. I don't know if it's advantage or, just another army grant also. But, there's other chance. They didn't need as many people as last time. They don't have another chance. So my perspective is the target was different. What I probably didn't realize is everywhere I went, there was one of those things. Pretty good, right? But I never saw that. When I think of this group, we get so much energy and a flexible group. And I think one of our strengths is that we do try to find a common ground for the most part, and we do set aside our personal opinions for the most part. And I think it's natural for it to get a little rough sometimes, and that's why I appreciate formal discourse and living agreement, really reading it. You framed it in a way that I think we can all understand and adopt. That takes the groundwork for where we go from here. And I just want to say that it's awesome to have new voices, new perspectives, and I think that's one of our.
I think we're close enough that we all know we can. We can share for just a point. Say why, and we're always really listening. But going back to the target age, let's talk. Male, female, your ethnicity, your education, your ability, your disability. You got number not all of that. You get it.
I also like what you said about the absolute, because I think that there's a lot of nuances, especially when you're talking about things that are political. So many that it's really hard to be receptive. You're right, like when someone's talking in the absolute, like this fit. Science is like it's not. The more places you go, there's like, I remember being in Germany and like having my ideas, like I've never felt so American, until you're outside of the country, right? And ours was, like, my growing up in Germany was like, you know, some places people don't care, right? Like, about the things we care about, right? And then it puts into perspective, like, okay, so, you know, what am I going for?
Yeah.
Oh, did you not want to share? been times where, you know, if I'm putting something in, especially like for the house or like the side of the wall, right? I've done a lot of, it's just spending time, even when I'm doing portraits, right? I'm spending a lot of time with the person, and we're talking, and I've been at space where like there's not a lot of music playing, right? To get a sense of where it is and what I'm trying to, or like what I'm going to put up here. And so that by the time I'm reading something, I'm buying already, does that make sense? Like, because I've listened a lot. And then when it goes up, yes, there's always gonna be people that, like, I mean, I get that, get criticism, but like, here, and trying to that connection. And that's all I can do, right, when it comes to that, before, but that's.
Okay, we'll flip through these.
Well,
Okay, this one's from page 5 to the thank you. Thank you.
Let me do both photos instead of PowerPoint.
So yeah, I just wanted you to leave them with noticing. And thank you, Laura. Hopefully they'll be going out there. This is Laura Dallas, or she did the, one of the community. So, that was kind of the last. Yeah. I think with all the shopping in there. Yeah, it's just that. Because sometimes when we say they can't put their one, you know, they send me that first, and sometimes it's just not great, they all go off. So there's still a few more that are